Alright guys, that's Kremp again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Shotzzy has revealed everything that went down behind the scenes in the OpTic tech test camp over the last couple of weeks, revealing that it was himself, the Warlord, who reached out to Pred and said, look, we are not going to continue in this direction. He admits that Pred at the time was a pretty unhappy man. That may have changed over the last couple of days if the Falcons rumours are indeed going to be true, but Shotzzy says that the way things were going with OpTic, it was simply untenable to continue in this fashion. Will the OpTic team improve? Because scrim results are looking exceptionally good so far. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. First of all, CleanX is officially gone for the Minnesota Rocker. Again, the funny thing is, they didn't even confirm it first. What they did confirm, well, Law Gaming confirmed Hixie, Mock, CleanX and Fame. That's their new team of 4, but of course, Minnesota hadn't even yet confirmed that Paul was gone for the team, so it took them a couple of hours to put the graphic together, and then they officially confirmed that Paul is gone. Look, CleanX wasn't really good for this team. He had a pretty stinky stage 1. The major he had was better, and I feel like that's kind of why he stays. In hindsight, you might argue that really after Major 1, despite the fact that he played a bit better, they could have considered a move anyway. I think the Rocker at the time, you know, someone like Fellow, my consideration was always the leadership side, really, that Rocker, I would say, needs. Some sort of veteran experience, I would expect, alongside Nero, Estriel, Geo, would help get the better out of those guys than maybe CleanX was able to deliver. Maybe the thinking is we just need to upgrade the firepower and the rest will take care of itself. But intrigued to your perspective in the comments. We don't really know who Rocker's 4th actually is going to be, because Kenny was of course linked to the Ravens. I'm pretty sure he has an offer from Rocker, but he may not want to go there, which is also understandable, because if I'm Kenny, the money isn't great. You know, is it better just to sit out the year if you're Kenny than take the Rocker offer? Possibly. I think Ravens, if it was there as an option, if Ravens actually wanted to pay the very small buyout for OpTic apparently, then they could have done it. But, you know, in another circumstance, like, is Kenny going to go to Gentlemates? I think the answer is no, even if an offer is there. So for Rocker, it's maybe a little bit more touch and go. And this is what Ronnie said yesterday, that there's 3 names that are considered right now. Kenny is one. And to me, Kenny would be, I mean, probably the best fit, just because I think that Kenny's, you know, leadership style, and I'm still of the belief that Kenny in a different system can, you know, rejuvenate himself. Maybe this game isn't the greatest for him, and in terms of pure numbers, would he be that much better than CleanX? You know, I'd hope so, but maybe not necessarily. But would he help bring what Geo, Estriel, Nero needs to level up? And they could still be a really good team, I think. Sure, I think there's a possibility. Brack is another option. Brack's been killing it in terms of raw numbers, as he always tends to do, but certainly in challenges, he's had a good time. Standy was on Twitter saying the other day, like, look, you've got to pick this guy up, he's too good. Or DC, that of course being DiamondCon. So, I'm assuming that's who it is anyway. So there's a few names in the consideration. Ronnie's not 100% sure what they're actually going to do as of recording the video. So, well, at least as of last night. So we'll see. And treat your perspective in the comments below. If you were Looney, if you were the team, you've got rid of CleanX, who do you get? Because it doesn't seem like you can get Fellow now. We'll get to that in a second. And you can't get Arcetes, it seems, because we think he's going to the Vegas Falcons, as we saw yesterday. Speaking of Gentlemates, this was Gutago on stream the other day saying that there's a real promising SMG player who just won MVP at the most recent Challengers event, and of course that is OJohnny. And OJohnny tweeted us out yesterday, made it to Dallas, boys, ready for everything, and here he is landing in, and you know, I don't know what he could possibly be doing out there in Dallas, but to meet up with the team and crack on with the new roster. This also from Fellow. So Fellow drops this yesterday. Since Twitter's down, you won't see this. It's obviously a classic Fellow tweet. He's tweeted this out a million times over the last few months. This one, though, is legit because we're pretty sure that he's going to be joining the Gentlemates and Priestahh is going to be gone. So we know that Lynz is out, Johnny is in. That, of course, leaves Lunarz and Kismet on the team, with Fellow now joining as well. So, look, are these good changes? Probably in the grand scheme of things. Is it the type of thing that they need to try? Sure. I like the Johnny pickup. You know, I think Priestahh has just been struggling for a long time now, so bringing Fellow back in I think makes a fair bit of sense. So, look, we'll see. I thought maybe even Falcons was a possibility for Fellow. He was actually linked over there because, of course, Clay, here he is, coach of the Falcons. You know, maybe that relationship could have paid dividends over at that team as well, but it seems like the Falcons are going down the Pred Arcetes route as an SMG AR combination with Xnid to stay, and then maybe Prolute we talked about yesterday. Look, when these teams get confirmed, I'll do a deeper dive on whether they're going to be any better or not. But, you know, before they get confirmed, I tend to just talk about the rumors. And then, you know, when it's official, then we can do a little bit more, you know, deep dive on whether they're going to get slammed as bad as they previously were. This is the Ravens team. And look, Vivid's card is not pretty, really. And maybe that shouldn't be a massive surprise. The other three guys played well this stage. I mean, here's Slasher with an 84 overall rating. His, you know, respawn modes wasn't spectacular, but his search and destroy was real good this stage. Slasher with a 1.2 kills per round. Same story for TJ as well, actually very similar. And to be fair to Vivid, his search was better this stage in terms of pure KD. And I guess, you know, there's not too many first bloods and stuff to go around when TJ and Gwinn are leading the lines in that regard. But still, if Vivid isn't getting many first bloods at all, then, you know, there's some questions on that. But his damage per round wasn't terrible, but for an AR, it wasn't especially good, especially compared to someone like Slasher, who had a 93 rating there, but it wasn't even needed because the way the cards work, take the two best numbers from each category, and these were 97s in his role. Gwinn at an 84, TJ at an 83, and Vivid at a 67 rating. Now, I think the 67 rating feels a bit harsh on Vivid, to be fair. But if you look at his impact in terms of, let's say, hardpoint, I know the hardpoint here says 9 in 6, which it was, but I think in general against better teams or against teams they'll want to compete with, it's probably their worst and weakest mode a lot of the time. Like when they play Thieves, they get crushed bad, and their control isn't great either. But if you look at Vivid's hardpoint, he is pretty down there in terms of like the AR role. He's really not delivering much, and I think this is why the team considered getting rid of Vivid. And look, I think that Vivid often, he gets dropped a lot, and he's very rarely necessarily the worst player, and often the team, when they get rid of him, doesn't really improve. So, but there seems to be reasons why he keeps getting, at least on the verge of getting dropped or benched or whatever. Like if you look at the last few years, he has been dropped or has left and has changed teams numerous times over the last few years. So, you know, there's obviously got to be some sort of reason for it, and they tried to do it again. I mean, this is a fact as far as I'm aware anyway, that they were trying to drop Vivid, bring in Kenny, and it didn't happen due to, you know, basically Ravens didn't want to pay the buyout. We discussed that over the last few days. And look, you can argue whether that would be a good idea or not. My perspective is that if Ravens are going to say, look, we're not going to pay anything for Kenny, you at least need to give the players another option, right? Like, you know, what about someone like Dylan Rex from Challengers? He had a good tournament back in Dallas in the Challenger side. He's an AR player that could potentially fit into that role. If you're not willing to pay a buyout for someone from the Pro League like Kenny, then there are other options out there in Challengers. But I think the issue for the Ravens is they feel like they're mentally compromised. And I think, well, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, to be honest. And we'll see some evidence of that in a second. Now, Shotzzy, they were intending to scrim Thieves yesterday, but Scrap, and which unfortunately never happens, because as Scrap says, sorry to break it to you, brother, my internet is screwed up here, and Bella's told me the technician will be here tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. Castro, I think, being kind of part of the second barrel of Shotzy's last name, so pretty funny tweet, to be honest. But they did scrim at Ravens, and they absolutely slammed Ravens yesterday. Now you might say, oh well, you know, here we go again, OpTic Hook is back and they're slamming teams in scrims. But you've got to give some credit to Hook, man. Like the fact that this guy comes in ice cold and delivers performances, gets this team in a position where they're feeling a lot better about themselves, I'm sure, already. And they beat Ravens yesterday 8-0. Like, it was not close at all. The Vault was 250-110. Slammed them bad. Even the Protocol that we were talking about yesterday not being one of OpTic's best maps, they beat them on this 250-120. Big result for them, of course. I mean, every map, you know, the Hassie was close, 250-228. The Skyline was close, but they won everything. They played the red card and won that 250-151. And then they absolutely crushed them in all the controls as well. So, you know, lots of credit to OpTic for the quick turnarounds. But again, I've not seen OpTic play a team yet that, like, you know, is incredibly competitive, because we know that Ravens, they have been slammed in scrims. Their scrims haven't been great, really, since the start of the game launched, but in matches they've been better. And I also feel like this current Ravens team might be deeply compromised. I mean, OpTic beat them 6-2 yesterday, or the day before. They beat them 8-0 yesterday. This is a Ravens team where Vivid full well knows he was going to be out of there. Like, I think it's, yeah, I'm not convinced, really, that this is going to work out for the Ravens if they keep going in this way. And maybe yesterday's scrum results, if I'm Slasher, I'm going to the bosses at Ravens and I'm saying, look, guys, we're going to do something here. Give me some money to spend or whatever, because this isn't going to go to plan if it continues in this way. So 3-1 the Vault, and obviously also winning the Protocol 3-1 is notable just because it's a map that OpTic don't really tend to play. So, look, I'm not going to deep dive into the scrum results again. What I want to see is them play a stronger team on paper, and once we see that, then we can start talking about whether OpTic are back or whatever, right? Because against the Ravens a couple of days in a row, I'm not convinced that's super telling, but I think their gameplay has certainly been looking a lot better. But I wanted to share a couple of minutes here of what Shotzzy had to say on the whole Pred situation, and he actually confirms, look, this is the Warlord in action, baby. He's at it again. It's quite clear Shotzzy has the keys, and that is not going to be changing anytime soon. If Shotzzy wants something to happen, if he's not happy with how one of his teammates is playing, that is typically what is going to be happening. And Shotzzy says that he was the one who called up Pred and told him, look, we're going to be moving in a different direction. Pred wasn't very happy about it, and, you can understand it, I guess, but, of course, it may well work out for Pred if these Falcons rumors are true.
Yeah, mid.
You the one who told AG about the rest changes?
What's front?
Yo, you guys actually want to know everything, dude. It's so funny, because I actually don't give a fuck, and I actually will say.
I'll take this shot.
Was that the one that told him?
I got your chase.
Yes, unfortunately.
Come on, buddy.
One shot. There's
Did I want to tell him?
half health for you.
Obviously
There's three there, Seth. Or Zinni.
Yo, Caesar, I know you
It
love
is what
the
it
Jackal,
is.
bro.
Two more.
How did you react? Nah, AG was definitely pissed. AG was, bro, anyone's going to be pissed in that moment. It's unfortunate. We obviously wanted it to work, but just couldn't. Bro, we literally went 0-18, dude. Shit was just not working. Nah, yeah, I could kind of go into, it's not really, in depth, to be honest, other than, I feel like the team change was needed, because, without going too in depth, obviously, there's more shit. The main thing, I guess, was just that me and AG just didn't work together as good as, obviously, we wanted it to be. And that's just as simple as we could put it. His playstyle and my playstyle, literally just did not mesh in this game. I didn't think it worked in W3, not this game. I think part of it probably has to do with, the fact that the beginning of the year, I think that definitely matters, but I don't know. I feel like this game is just different. This game is more ape heavy. Last year, I feel like you could get away with, I don't know. Last year was just different. Last year was kind of ape, but this year it's completely different. But I said to him you would play better with a sub that plays off you. Because right now, whenever he joined, but that's the thing. It's not even his fault or anything. None of this is his fault. It's just the way it naturally happened. But whenever he came back to the team, it was obviously we were getting slammed. So everyone was just doing their own thing, and I kind of felt like I was playing off him, if that makes sense, instead of just being one. And I literally just lost my flow, and it's as simple as that. Compared to with Kyler, I feel like I don't have to second guess whenever I'm playing with Kyler. He's doing something, I'm alright, bet I'm able to do this. Whereas when I was playing with AG, it was kind of holy fuck, I'm defaulting to the same stuff, and it just made me uncomfortable. I had no flow, to be honest.
I thought Shotzzy's perspective on why it didn't work with Pred was pretty interesting, because of course it worked last year with Pred, just about. It was pretty good all year long, Shotzzy and Pred, but towards the end of last season they really kicked up into a new gear. This year, with the way that the gameplay is, it didn't seem to be working. Shotzzy was feeling uncomfortable on the map playing with Pred. And, I get that, right? Shotzzy often wants to, he wants to be the first guy in, or he wants to play right there with his teammates. And maybe in this game, at least the way that Shotzzy feels that Pred approaches the game, Pred's playstyle doesn't really tend to change. He will sit in a corner and play an off angle and get a kill. And that can work, and, he'll go for flanks and take some space and maybe take his time a little bit more. That can work, sure. But on this game, sometimes you just need your SMG duo to be barreling in there. And that's something that Hook will do that Pred is maybe, less eager to do. And it doesn't seem like Pred was, either willing or able to change his playstyle in this way. So Shotzzy felt like he was uncomfortable as a result. Shotzzy makes the calls, so, you know, it's not like Pred was going to be staying over Shotzzy in this circumstance if they were disagreeing on playstyle, and, yeah, if Shotzzy wasn't happy with the way that things were. Obviously, the start of what happened at the beginning of the game, back in December, Pred taking a couple of months out for, you know, let's say unfortunate circumstances, I think Pred might have described it as, that obviously affected things to a great extent and prevented them from getting the practice in that they would have wanted, but nonetheless, Shotzzy was clearly not happy with how things were going. He picks up the phone, he tells aG it's time to go, and now they're moving on again, and he's bringing his boy Hook back into the roster. So, yeah, the Warlord's back at it again, you know, doesn't need any messenger, he'll get on the phone and he'll do the dirty work himself, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty spicy the next time that Pred and OpTic play each other, and if that's Falcons v OpTic, that will be probably a very different game to what it was when they played most recently at the minor. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in a comment. Just one final thing, rumour is today that the teams that OpTic will scrim are Boston and Ultra, both competitive teams in my opinion. So this I think will be more telling, especially the Ultra one, I guess, right? Of course, because they just lost to them in the major in pretty emphatic fashion. But hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.